Lou Dobbs and Tucker Carlson were discussing Tucker's new book, and their analysis of Trump is pretty funny in how bizarre it is.
What shocks, look, Trump gets elected. He gets elected despite everyone's predictions. He gets elected because the country is mad about major decisions Washington has made. This happens. I get it. Amazing. Most amazing to me is that nobody in Washington pauses and says, wait a second. Did I do something wrong that the country's mad at me? Yeah. Can I learn from this? Can I improve my behavior going forward? No, it's Russia. Trump's a racist. Okay, fine. But were you part of this? Like the decisions you made about the economy, the culture, foreign policy. People hated those decisions, and you've never owned up to that.
The damn fools of the Dems actually don't understand that Trump is neither right nor left. This is a man who came from the center. He thinks pragmatically. He acts pragmatically. He is pursuing the national interest. He is first and foremost an American.
Yes.
And he is governing, whether anyone on the left wants to admit this because it's inconvenient to their own interest. He is governing from the center of this country.
Exactly.
With great traditional values in his sights.
Don't even know where to begin with this one. Okay. See, that's the thing about Tucker Carlson that's infuriating, is that the first part he laid out there, not wrong, when he was like, okay, Americans actually turned to Trump. Now, to be fair, there's a variety of reasons why different people voted for Trump. If you look at fucking David Duke or Richard Spencer, it's because Trump was the more bigoted candidate and would push the more bigoted policies that they were like, yeah, we like that guy. But there were people, particularly in the Rust Belt, who said, oh, Trump's populist. He said he's going to keep my job here. He's not going to cut Social Security and Medicare. We don't trust Hillary. Trump's going to fight the establishment. Hillary is from the establishment. So yes, there were people who voted for him for that reason. And Tucker's right to say the country looked at our economic policy, our foreign policy, and said, hey, the elites fucked this up, and so they voted for Trump. Many of them did for that exact reason. So his initial analysis is not wrong. Then they drive it into a ditch. They drive it off a cliff. They drive it off the fucking Grand Canyon, son. Lou Dobbs says, what they don't understand is Trump came from the center. He's a centrist. He's pragmatic. He's pursuing the national interest. Let's take that one by one. Now, Tucker went after John Bolton recently because John Bolton is, of course, a neocon war hawk, and he's for every war imaginable. Hey, Tucker and Lou, you do know Donald Trump is currently bombing 8 different countries, right? You do know he increased drone strikes by 432%, right? You do know that we're permanently occupying Syria, and there was no vote in Congress over this, right? You do know we still have 900 military bases around the world that cost $100 billion a year to maintain, right? How the fuck can you say he's pursuing, and I quote, the national interest? That's not the national interest. On the campaign trail, he said on the campaign trail repeatedly, and you go look at his Twitter feed from back in the day, what do we do in Afghanistan? It's stupid. Why are we in Afghanistan? They don't even like us. They don't even need us. What are we doing? It's a mess. It's a mess. We need to pull out. We need to rebuild our own country. Have we rebuilt our own country? No. Flint still doesn't have clean water. Our infrastructure still gets a grade of D+. The only infrastructure bill he proposed was a fucking privatization scam, which, by the way, went nowhere, particularly because it's a privatization scam, and it turned over a lot of our infrastructure to Goldman Sachs. So, he's not pursuing the national interest. Ironically and hilariously, you know how Steve Bannon rails against, I'm a nationalist, and we're against the globalists. Donald Trump is acting as a globalist. That's why we're bombing 8 different countries. That's why we still have the 900 military bases. That's why we're not rebuilding our own country. Fuck out of here. Oh, he's looking out for the national interest. How can your diagnosis be not terrible, but then your answer is just literally more of the problem? So that gets to the next point. Oh, he's governing from the center. He's pragmatic. He's governing as an elitist. That's what he's doing. He's representing the establishment. Do you understand how much the establishment loved that tax bill? So Trump's tax bill, for those of you who don't know, cut the corporate tax rate from, on paper, the nominal rate was 35%. It became 21%. Absolutely gutted the estate tax. And 83% of the benefits of that tax bill went to the top 1%. All of the tax cuts for working class people are temporary. all the tax cuts for the rich are permanent. That tax bill was in part crafted by Goldman Sachs. So Trump, when he ran in the campaign, he was yelling at Hillary for being a sellout to Wall Street. He yelled at Ted Cruz in the primary for being a sellout to Wall Street, particularly Goldman Sachs. Why aren't you going to release the transcripts, Hillary? By the way, she should have. I agree with that. But now he's in power. He is doing the bidding of the establishment and of the elitists and Wall Street. This idea he's governing, define the center, define pragmatic. Oh, he's a centrist and he's pragmatic. He's a centrist and he's pragmatic. Let me explain something to you. When you cut taxes massively for the rich and for corporations, when you have 93,000 jobs outsourced under your administration, as you have, when you change NAFTA to make it NAFTA 2.0, which is overwhelmingly the exact same fucking thing as NAFTA, when you eliminate tax deductions for the middle class, as he did as one of his first policies when he got into office, he signed an executive order that eliminates tax deductions for the middle class. When you do executive orders that obliterate what remains of Obamacare and make it so that 8 million people lose health insurance under Trump's first year in office, when you do those things, you're not governing from the center. You're governing for corporations and for Wall Street and for the elite and for billionaires. That's why Steve Mnuchin was in his administration. That's why Gary Cohn was in his administration. That's why he had, when you looked at Trump's cabinet, he had the net worth of his cabinet combined blew away any administration in American history. Why? Because he's an elitist. That's why. So this idea, he's governing from the center. He's pragmatic. Please, he's not governing from the center at all. He's not pragmatic at all. He's doing the bidding of the establishment. And that's the other thing, man. Stop. Tucker Carlson will never tell you the truth about Donald Trump. Tucker Carlson pretends like he's populist. Tucker Carlson pretends like, oh yeah, I'm for the people and the elites are the problem. Well, then if you're supporting Donald Trump, as you say the elites are the problem, well then you don't actually believe the elites are a problem because Donald Trump is serving the elites. So this is a guy, by the way, Tucker Carlson, who now pretends like he's non-interventionist. And to be fair to him, maybe he is now. I don't know. Maybe he had a real change of heart. But the point is, he used to be for the wars. Now he's acting like he's against them. Again, maybe he had a real change of heart, and that's fine. I'll take it if he did. But it's like, point is, you can't trust him because that's Hillaryism and Trumpism. Like, oh yeah, sure, I changed my mind on this thing. Well, there are people who are consistent. Like Bernie Sanders, for example. Consistent. He has been consistent all along. You, on the other hand, hard to trust your analysis when I don't know what you really believe. And again, he's never going to tell you the truth about Trump. He's never going to do it. He's never going to lay out everything like I just laid out for you right there about the policies that Trump continuing, actually. He's continuing these policies that continue the empire and that continue corporate dominance and Wall Street dominance of our economy, and certainly not looking out for working class people. By the way, wages are stagnant. So the idea, he's helping working people. The unemployment rate is low, but it's low wage job creation. So not the best thing to be cheering on. And there's a war on the working class in this country. There is. I mean, Trump's not even for a living wage, and you're going to pretend like he's for the common man? It's just so stupid. I mean, hey, actually, you know what? I scratch almost everything I said there. You know what? You're right. Trump is governing from the center, and he is pragmatic. He's governing from the center of Washington, D.C. elites, and he's pragmatic for Washington, D.C. elites. Certainly not in the center of the country. If he was in the center of the country, he'd be for Medicare for all. 70% of Americans are for Medicare for all. He'd be for a living wage. 80% of Americans are for raising the minimum wage. He'd be for getting out of Afghanistan. Only 17% of Americans still want to be in Afghanistan. He'd be for legalizing marijuana. 60% of Americans, probably more than that now, 62%, whatever it may be, are for legalizing marijuana. He'd be for the populist left policies if he was governing from the center of the actual country, but he's not.